Because of the nymphomaniac, I became the stand-in of the school grass Qingmei. He regarded me as a toy to relieve boredom when he was single until his little sweetheart returned to China. At the reception banquet that day, Yin Mochu hugged Qingmei and said to me, "Let's break up. Don't come to me in the future." But my eyes had already passed through him and fell on another cold and handsome man. I walked around the school grass and walked to the man, looking like a nymphomaniac. "Handsome, do you have a girlfriend? If not, what do you think of me?" The school grass was anxious and pulled me back. "Are you stupid? If you are a man, come up." I looked like a nymphomaniac. He is not a man. He is so handsome. I usually call him a male god. 1. Like my mother, I'm a nymphomaniac. I can't walk when I see a good-looking man. At the stage of the literary and artistic performance of the junior students, I held a cup of hot coffee and waited for the male god Yin Mochu to come down from the stage. He stood on the stage and answered the phone with a charming smile on his handsome face. "Really? Are you coming back? Okay, I'll pick you up now." He glanced at me under the stage. "Yitong, don't pay attention to me in the future. Qingyu is back and I don't need you anymore. By the way, you don't have to prepare a birthday present for me next week." He spoke to the microphone and the whole auditorium heard him. And I became the protagonist of the large-scale social death scene. There was a sound of discussion around. "Oh my god, there is a lot of information. This is a breakup." As for Yitong's face, you can find a partner immediately after breaking up. It was because the previous target was the young master of Yin group that no one dared to approach Yitong. Yes, I saw that many boys' eyes were shining. But it's really a shame to be dumped in public, isn't it? Yes, it's really embarrassing. I could only stand silently and stiffly, unwillingly looking at him in high spirits on the stage. He didn't look at me, jumped off the stage and ran outside in a hurry. I was unwilling and chased out with the coffee in my arms. "Mochu, wait for me." He turned around and said, "Don't be so good to men in the future. You queued up for hours to buy coffee, but it's not as good as Qingyu's smile." People passing by pointed at me, that I'm like a clown, ridiculous and inferior. At first, I didn't know that Yin Mochu was the prince of Yin's group, but only that he was a handsome man in the same grade. Because he plays well, I am madly infatuated with him. I bought him breakfast, brought water, invited him to an expensive internet celebrity restaurant, and bought him signed basketballs and signed jerseys for tens of thousands of yuan. In order to surprise him, I got up before 4 o'clock in the morning and went to the breakfast shop to work. In the evening, I sold wine in the bar. All the rest of the time was given to Yin Mochu except for classes. Later, after the identity of the young master of his group was revealed, he continued to enjoy my good dealty to him like a normal person. Now he suddenly abandoned me. I feel so uncomfortable that I want to die. I asked for leave from the bar. I lay on the bed in the dormitory and turned over and kept staring at my mobile phone. Maybe he will change his mind and call me. It was more than 10 o'clock in the evening when he really called. I sat up excitedly and answered the phone in a hurry. "Hey, the flight is delayed. Qingyu won't arrive until tomorrow afternoon. You can still be my girlfriend for more than 10 hours. Now you come to the airport to pick me up." 2. I originally fantasized that he couldn't give up on me and came to ask for a reunion. Now that he says such words, it is like a bolt from the blue to me. Haven't we broken up? Don't pretend. You must be reluctant to give up on me. Since Qingyu, a sophomore, went abroad as an exchange student to now we have been together for more than a year. I really can't give up with him. We are still going to break up more than 10 hours later. If you behave well, you cannot break up. For the sake of his appearance, I endured it. I ran to the airport and he called me to take a selfie at the airport. I sent it to you after taking a photo. He told me to go to a villa. I took a taxi to the villa to find him again. A party is being held in the villa. This party is to celebrate Qingyu and Gu Yuxing's return from abroad at the same time. The school they entered happened to be the University of Me and Yin Mochu. Yin Mochu was holding a wine glass in his hand and talking. "I just said that Yitong would go to the airport to pick me up in the rain, right? How about it? Did I win? Transfer money to me in a moment. Don't play tricks." It turned out that I was teased again. "Brother Mochu, who is your favorite person in your life?" He said without thinking. "Is there any need to say that? Of course it's Qingyu." Everyone coaxed and looked at today's heroine Qingyu. She was wearing a white dress with a princess's head and an expensive diamond necklace around her neck. At first glance she was a noble lady. And I was dressed in cheap jeans and a white t-shirt, and my body was wet and extremely embarrassed. I'm very different from her, and I'm even more out of sto well with today's party. A woman looked at Qingyu and began to ask, "TSK, what's wrong with you and Yitong? Is there no need to say that? Of course it's a toy to relieve boredom." Before Qingyu came back, I had rejected her in front of everyone in the auditorium. Qingyu smiled with satisfaction and leaned gently on his arm. The two looked at each other, very sweet. "If you continue to stay, it will be boring." I turned around with my head down and suddenly hit a meat wall. I admit that I'm a nymphomaniac. There are countless handsome men I have been infatuated with, but it's the first time I've seen a man with perfect facial features, broad shoulders and narrow waist, and a more perfect figure than a model. My heart was beating wildly. I thought I was a nymphomaniac again. I stared at his handsome face and said, "I'm single now. Can you make me like you?" "I can make you like it, but this love will last a lifetime. Are you willing?" A handsome man fell from the sky and hit me. I nodded in a hurry. Yin Mochu looked over and said with a smile, "The rest of my life, that's the toy I used to relieve boredom. It's always reckless. It didn't bother you, did it?" Point 3. I smiled bitterly. Am I not Yin Mochu's toy? I have been humiliated since I realized it. Yin Mochu came over and smiled playfully. "You're really here. Okay, go quickly. Qingmei will probably be unhappy to see you." Qingmei in his mouth also came over, took Yin Mochu's arm, and looked at me up and down. "Is this my stand-in? Her whole body is wet and dirty. Mochu, your eyesight is really poor. How can she compare with me? I just think her smile is a little like yours, so I stay by your side to have fun. Now that you are back, she must disappear." After he said gently to the white moonlight, his eyes were cold when he looked at me, and his voice was full of impatience. "Can I leave now?" I didn't see him at all, and my whole heart was attracted by the handsome man in front of me. "You just said let me like you for the rest of my life. Don't worry, I will definitely do it." "Yi Tong." Yin Mochu frowned and shouted angrily, "It is a blessing for you to stay by my side as a dog in your previous life. Do you know who he is? He is the Prince of Kyoto, Gu Yusheng. If you can't afford to provoke him, you can't even think about it. Hurry up and go." I stared at Gu Yusheng for a moment. "Your name is so beautiful, I promise you a lifetime and take care of me for the rest of my life." Yin Mochu was even more impatient and pushed me out. "He must have been playing with you just now. Don't take it seriously." I turned around one step and again, what if what he said is true? You are dreaming. If I play with you just to tease you, he will play with you and directly play with you to death. There will be times when you cry in the future. Hurry up and don't appear in our sight in the future. I was aggrieved and stood pitifully at the door of the villa. "Do you have to take a taxi back to school again? Today's taxi fare has cost hundreds of dollars." A calm black car stopped in front of me, and the window opened, revealing a perfect profile. "Get in the car." My heart beat faster and I pulled my white t-shirt crampedly. I fell down in a hurry on the way. Now my body is dirty. Will it stain his car when I go in? I'll just say it once. I'm leaving if I don't get on the bus. By the time I regained my mind, I had already sat in Gu Yusheng's co-driver's seat. When the car left, someone exclaimed, "I remember that Gu Xiao never let people sit in his co-driver's seat. What's wrong today?" "No, I have to tell Yin Mochu and others." 4. When I was alone with Yin Mochu for the first time, I was not so nervous. I'm afraid that I'm breathing heavily and will be hated. Before getting out of the car, I summoned up the courage to say, "Is what you said true?" "What kind of words?" "That's what you just said in the villa." He looked at my eyes closely and showed a smile that turned all sentient beings upside down. "If you like someone, shouldn't you start by chasing someone? Do you want me to chase you? I understand it by myself." At noon the next day, Yin Mochu, who had been served by me, was serving Qingmei in front of the saddle. He saw me and hurriedly said, "Qingmei wants to eat the fruit yogurt at window number 7. Go and line up. We've all broken up. It's not appropriate for you to ask me to buy something for your current girlfriend. If you go, I'll tell you about Gu Yusheng." I moved one step faster and rationally and hurried to queue up. I handed the fruit yogurt to Yin Mochu. "You talk about Gu Yusheng. He doesn't like a flat-breasted girl like you, let alone a nymphomaniac like you." Oh no, I seem to have been fooled again. Who said I don't like flat-breasted girls and nymphomaniac girls? Gu Yusheng's appearance instantly attracted everyone's attention. In the past, Yin Mochu was there, and everyone's eyes were on him. But Gu Yusheng is obviously much higher than Yin Mochu. He is taller, more handsome and more charming than Yin Mochu. Everyone's eyes automatically ignore Yin Mochu, and involuntarily follow Gu Yusheng. Yin Mochu patted him on the shoulder. "Don't joke for the rest of your life. How can you like a woman like her?" Everyone held their breath and wanted to know the answer. Gu Yusheng looked around and said, "In the future she is my man, and I am not allowed to bully her. Especially you, Yin Mochu." Everyone exclaimed, "What's going on?" "The Prince of Beijing Circle, who has just returned to China like Yi Tong. Aren't Gu Yusheng and Yin Mochu good brothers? Why do you fall in love with the same woman?" "No, Yi Tong broke up. It's just right to be with Gu Yusheng." That I was so excited that I followed Gu Yusheng outside. "Is what you just said true?" He didn't stop. "What's true or false?" "I'm here to relieve you." "Oh." 5. I was very lost. I walked forward and accidentally bumped into his back. He turned around and stroked my head with his big hand. "Have you always been so reckless?" For you, I can become less reckless. You are very interesting. I looked at him with burning eyes and didn't want to miss every expression on his face. So shall we fall in love? You are full of people who don't like me or chase me to fall in love. Do you know what real love is? I thought about it carefully. Every time I see you, I have a heart attack. My heart is pounding, and I urgently need help. He raised his hand and tapped my forehead. It's an exaggeration. When he turned around, he whispered, but it's really interesting. Yin Mochu came out of the canteen with Qingmei and other people, directly ignoring my existence. For the rest of my life, let's go abroad to relax on the National Day holiday. I just came back from abroad and don't want to go. I remember that you like climbing. Shall we go climbing together? Gu Yuxing nodded and glanced at me inadvertently. Everyone cheered and shouted about the things to climb the mountain. I gently pulled the corner of Gu Yuxing's clothes. Can I go? Yin Mochu gave me a blank look. You don't have good physical strength. Climbing a mountain is not self-insuffing. Be obedient and don't go. I used to go out with him and he said so many times. Qingmei pondered for a while and said, I'm the only girl. How boring it is. Let's call Yi Tong together. I successfully joined the mountain climbing team. At the appointed time, I saw several off-road vehicles coming at the foot of the mountain. Everyone is fully armed with all kinds of mountaineering and camping equipment. And I don't even have a pair of decent hiking shoes. Gu Yuxing frowned and looked at me. Why don't you answer the phone? I looked down and saw several unreplies on my mobile phone. I crowded the bus and didn't pay attention. Qingmei smiled and said, if I had known that you had squeezed the bus, I would have asked Yin Mochu to pick you up. No, it's good to take the bus. It's lively. Qingmei came close to me and suddenly retreated, covering his nose. What's the smell of you? It's really soaking. Maybe it was crowded on the bus. I looked at Gu Yuxing worriedly. Gu Yuxing and Yin Mochu strode forward with their mountaineering bags on their backs. I hurried to follow. After climbing for more than 10 minutes, Qingmei asked Yin Mochu to carry it. In the past, Yin Mochu and I also came to climb the mountain. At that time, Yin Mochu didn't even want to take a bottle of water, let alone carry a backpack. Sure enough, the degree of love is different and the contribution is also different. Gu Yuxing stopped at some point and looked at me thoughtfully. Do you have to follow me to climb the mountain? Do you want to see them show their love? 6. I shook my head in a hurry and walked a few steps in front of him. No, I'm wondering if you're tired. Do you want me to carry you? Can you move your back? Why don't you carry me? I underestimated Gu Yuxing's physical strength. He carried me and I carried my bag and crawled for hours without breathing. When everyone saw that he carried me to the mountain, which was more than half an hour faster than Yin Mochu, everyone exclaimed. Everyone whispered that Gu Yuxing really fell in love with me. I set up a tent happily and Qingmei came over. Gu Yuxing likes to be kind to a person first, to the extreme, and then dump this person fiercely. When I was abroad, many sisters around me had this kind of experience. Yi Tong, at least you have talked to Yin Mochu and we are half friends. Don't blame me for not reminding you. I seem to have fallen directly into the trough from the distance. Qingmei left proudly, and I sat alone by the unfinished tent, and my mood was quite complicated. Yin Mochu personally grilled the barbecue and handed it to Qingmei thoughtfully. In the past, when we were together, I baked it for him. He thought the barbecue smelled so bad that he never came close to him, let alone grilled it himself. I silently took out the cookies baked last night and hesitated whether to give them to Gu Yuxing. Will he dislike it? You bake this kind of cookie that doesn't go on the table again. Yin Mochu took it with his big hand. I've told you many times that the cookies you made are very ordinary. But since you did it, I reluctantly. It's not for you. I rushed back and guarded it in my arms nervously. Everyone's eyes looked over one after another. Yin Mochu's face was a little ugly, and he still said self-righteously, I know that you are reluctant after being dumped by me, and you want to evoke my love for you with cookies. But Yi Tong, the past is in the past. I don't like you anymore. Can't this person understand human speech? I was a little angry. This cookie is not for you but for Gu Yuxing. Gu Yuxing went over to pick up the branch. When he came back, he heard me say this and directly took the cookies in my arms. Is it me who is the villain above? The taste is not bad. 7. Everyone raised their necks and looked over. It turns out that it's really for the rest of my life. The cartoon villain above looks like the rest of his life. Yes, it doesn't look like Yin Mochu at all. Yin Mochu felt very embarrassed and touched the back of his head. My face is very similar to Gu Yuxing. As for who the character on the cookie is, only Yi Tong knows it. Yin Mochu called Gu Yuxing aside. Don't mind Yuxing. Yi Tong just didn't give up on me and was angry with me. Is that so? She loves me so much. In order to buy me a gift, she works 4 times a day at most. In order to buy me breakfast, you can get up at 4 in the morning to buy breakfast. Once I caught a cold, she folded 1,000 paper cranes for me. In a word, I have a deep affection for me, and ordinary people won't understand. Gu Yuxing looked back at me and said, the past is the past. And word, I apologize to you on her behalf. If she bothers you in the future, you must not mind. No need. Gu Yuxing returned to the barbecue stall and baked my favorite shrimp for me. When the wine and food were full, everyone went down the mountain. Qingmei suddenly said that his bracelet had fallen on the mountain and asked me to go back to look for it. It's halfway up the mountain now. If you go back and fold back, it will definitely be very late. Why should I go? Well, if you find it, I'll tell you about Gu Yuxing. She looked at me proudly in a low voice. After all, I have been studying abroad as an exchange student for a year, and I know about him. This temptation is great, so I'd better go back. I searched for the top of the mountain for a long time, but I still didn't see the shadow of the bracelet. The sky is terribly gloomy, as if it is going to rain heavily. I raised my flashlight and continued to look for it, and my heart became more and more confused. With a roar, there was a thunder in the sky. I screamed in fear and heard footsteps coming from not far away, like a bird in a startled bough, so scared that I didn't dare to move. There was another lightning and thunder, and a long shadow was behind me. I hugged my head and squatted down. I don't have money. I'm not good looking. I haven't done anything bad. Don't come to me. Wow, bean-sized raindrops poured down. A big hand grabbed my wrist. Stupid, you've been cheated. There's no bracelet at all. Follow me. We both hid in a cave. With the help of lightning, I saw Gu Yuxing's face clearly. The fear and grievance just now overflowed in an instant, and I hugged him directly. His body was a little stiff, his heart beat faster, and his breathing was a little short. I didn't realize that my clothes were wet. After a nymphomaniac fell in love with someone else, the schoolgirl regretted 39,103. How terrible to hold an adult man. He let out a hoarse voice. Let go. No. Okay, then don't regret it. The next second I was pressed against the wall at the entrance of the cave, and I was directly hit by him. He lowered his head and dropped a burning kiss, almost burning me. My brain was blank, and the green performance seemed to make him more excited. His big hand holding me was hot and eager, as if he was going to embed me in his body. Yin Mochu's voice came not far away. Yi Tong! Yi Tong! Where are you? Yi Tong, come out quickly. I know it's too hasty to break up with you. If you come out, I promise to think about the breakup. 8. Why did Yin Mochu come? Is this still the rhythm you want to get back together with me? My mood became complicated again. My distraction made Gu Yuxing a little annoyed. He clamped my jaw and forced me to look straight. I promised to be your boyfriend. Didn't you agree before? I changed my mind because... He lengthened his voice and blew hot air in my ear. Because your ex-boyfriend seems to regret it. An indeterminate woman like you should have made you my property earlier, so that no one dares to covet you. He didn't give me a chance to answer, and the eager kiss came overwhelmingly, so that I no longer had the ability to think. His kiss gnawed at my collarbone from top to bottom. The feeling of crispness came and I screamed like a cat. If Gu Yuxing is a drug, then I must have been deeply poisoned. Yin Mochu's footsteps are getting closer and closer. Yi Tong, are you in the cave? I seemed to be found out that I was cheating and hurriedly shrank into Gu Yuxing's arms. Gu Yuxing gasped slightly and leaned in with me in his arms. Yi Tong. I just heard the movement, and I thought someone was there. He muttered and went far away again. Your ex-boyfriend is quite infatuated. He came to the mountain to find you in the heavy rain. Seeing that I didn't say anything, he raised my chin again. No matter how hard he is in the future, you are not allowed to look back, do you hear me? I nodded with a red face. Coincidentally, although I'm a nymphomaniac, I never eat back grass. Gu Yuxing hugged me and looked out. The rain won't stop for a while. Let's spend the night in the cave tonight. It's just the two of us? Isn't it inappropriate to be an orphan? His cold eyes flashed. Who else do you want to call? Call your ex-boyfriend with you. I shook my head in a hurry, shaking my head like a rattle. That's it. He cleaned up the cave, spread some hay and lay down with me. When he went down the mountain, he heard Qingmei say to others that he was deliberately teasing me, so he came to him. I thought of what Qingmei said, turned over and looked over. How many girlfriends have you had? What is your term? The air suddenly froze. Gu Yuxing's eyes narrowed, moved his body and faced me. How about 100? What about 1? Are you going to break up with me? It's not. That's right. Don't mention the past. He pinched my cheek, hugged me and closed his eyes. Don't move around. If you move around, I will bully you. How to bully me? He suddenly turned over and pressed me under him. My cheeks turned red and a pair of eyes looked at him at a loss. I won't ask, I won't talk nonsense, you come down. Didn't you deliberately flirt with me just now? After holding back for a long time, I stammered and said, You drive too fast. I'm carsick. He laughed softly and let me go. Point 9. When Gu Yuxing and I went down the mountain together, we met Yin Mochu, who was wet all over. When he saw me, he ran over like crazy, holding my shoulder and looking around. You didn't answer your phone. Where have you been all night? There is no signal on the mountain, and I can't answer the phone at all. Do you know how worried I am after you disappeared all night? Stupid talk. It hurts a lot for him to hold my shoulder. Gu Yuxing took his hand away and protected me behind him. Yi Tong stayed with me all night. Yin Mochu was electric, his body was stiff, and his face was bloodless. After a long time he reluctantly squeezed out a smile from the corner of his mouth, looked at Gu Yuxing and then looked at me. Yi Tong, is it Gu Yuxing who helped me take care of you? Don't be afraid. I will never abandon you again. You are still my people in the future, and I won't let you be wronged. Are you happy that I let you continue to be my girlfriend? I felt that the air pressure around Gu Yuxing was a little angry, and the anger on his face was very scary. Gu Yuxing put one hand on my shoulder and pushed Yin Mochu away with the other hand. Yi Tong, tell him that you are single now. Yin Mochu, I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend. Don't joke with me. In this world, who else will like you except me? I pointed to Gu Yuxing. Gu Yuxing nodded very cooperatively. In order to make me change my mind, you lied to me together for the rest of your life. Well, you succeeded. When I was looking for you crazily last night, I found that the person I really loved was you. Yi Tong, you will still be mine in the future. In the future, we will be fine and never be separated. Gu Yuxing's eyes fell on my neck. I was in a hurry last night. Didn't I hurt you? His words are too easy to be misunderstood. Yin Mochu's eyes were scarlet, dead staring at my neck. He saw a few kiss marks. At that moment he collapsed and asked loudly, "What did you two do last night?" When boyfriend and girlfriend stay together for one night, of course, they do things between men and women. Gu Yuxing gently helped me put the broken hair in front of my forehead behind my ear. Thank you for giving me the intact Yi Tong. You too. Qin Yu and a group of people dared to come over. When they saw Yin Mochu in embarrassment, they said worriedly, "It's really deadly for you to find someone to spend the night on a heavy rain. Get out of here." Everyone was dumbfounded. Yin Mochu has never been so fierce to Qin Yu. Qin Yu blinked pitifully and tears began to flow down. I just care about you. Yin Mochu only looked at me. He stared at me and slowly stretched out his hand. Yi Tong, I must still like me. I'll give you a chance. Come tu me. 10. Yin Mochu came to me all night in the heavy rain, which was indeed very touching, but I shook my head. I'll say it again, I already have a boyfriend. Don't be kidding. I only like people like you. Well, it's too much to act again. Come with me. I will treat you well in the future. Gu Yuxing bowed his head and kissed in front of everyone. I opened my eyes and accepted the kiss, and my cheeks began to turn red. Gu Yuxing placed his fingers with me and raised our hands high. Let me introduce to you. This is my Gu Yuxing's girlfriend Yi Tong. Everyone was shocked. Yi Tong, are you crazy? Yin Mochu questioned loudly. People like Gu Yuxing won't like you. Even if you can fall in love with him for a few years, his family will not agree to you be together. Gu Yuxing sneered. Does your family agree? I remember the year you were with Yi Tong. You often attended the blind date arranged by your parents. For Yi Tong's sake, I cannot go on a blind date in the future. Can you? I'm not like you. I need to depend on my parents to live. I can completely control my marriage. Just because of this, you lose. Gu Yuxing picked me up and turned away. Yin Mochu was still unwilling and rushed to us in a hurry. Gu Yuxing, our brothers for many years, are you going to turn your back on me for a woman? There is no one who wants to turn his face with you. You have had so many girlfriends, but I only have Yi Tong. Gu Yuxing smiled and said, from now on I have only Yi Tong. And you don't even know who the person you really like is, and there is no point in turning away from people like you. If I were you, I would think about your heart first, and then deal with my family, otherwise I would not be qualified to be with Yi Tong. After returning, I heard that Yin Mochu broke up with Qin Yu. It was still useless for Qin Yu to pester and beat me. Finally, he blocked me in the school bathroom. I really underestimated you. It's really shameless for you to hang two men at the same time. After I broke up with Yin Mochu, I was with Gu Yuxing. Haha, don't be sophistry. I've seen a lot of women like you, but with your background, let alone enter the Gu family in the future, it will be difficult to enter the Yin family. I looked at her angry look, but I was very happy. Don't worry about this. Good dogs don't get in the way. Get out of the way. We, the Qin family and the Yin family, have a good relationship with the Gu family. Because of you, Gu Yuxing won't invest in our two families. Do you know that you will make many people unemployed in the two major companies Qin and Yin? This is really what I didn't expect. A woman like you is so selfish. You deserve to be taught a lesson. 5 or 6 people appeared behind Qin Yu. They smiled evilly and approached step by step. Seeing that something was wrong, I hurriedly hid in the compartment and called Gu Yuxing with my mobile phone. Honey, Qin Yu and others want to bully me. 11. Because I was hiding inside, Qin Yu's and others had nothing to do. Finally, they thought for a long time and splashed a basin of cold water from above. I'm drenched, but it doesn't matter. It's not cold yet. Gu Yuxing should be here soon. Cockroaches, snakes, garbage, all kinds of bad things are thrown down from above. I stood on the toilet and panicked. The only thing I fear in my life is the snake. Watching it spit out and crawl up, my scalp tingles. Damn, I really thought I was bullying you. I took the initiative to open the compartment door, rushed over and put Qingmei under me, and hit her in the face. When Gu Yuxing came in, he saw me like this. Seeing him coming in, I felt aggrieved in an instant. Finally, I slapped Qingmei and rushed into his arms. Woo, I'm so scared. When the principal, the teacher and the security guard came in, Qingmei was still lying on the ground. His clothes were torn and his hair was messy. I pulled Gu Yuxing's collar tightly and cried. They bullied me together, locked me in the toilet, splashed water at me, threw cockroaches and snakes, and I was scared to death. After a burst of crying, the school leader dealt with Qingmei seriously. She not only remembers the big one, but also apologizes to me in front of the whole school. Gu Yuxing took me back to his residence outside the campus, asked me to take a hot bath, wipe and blow my hair in person. What kind of hard days did you spend with Yin Mochu before? Now is the day of immortality. I hugged his strong waist and said pitifully with a small face, it's fortunate that you came today, otherwise I would have suffered a big loss. The corners of his mouth twitched. I clearly saw you riding Qingmei, but she bullied me first, and you didn't feel sorry for me at all, who? He was amused by me and hugged me. I said, okay, I know you're wronged. I'll take you out for a big meal later, and I'll buy you some clothes and bags, okay? I nodded in a hurry. During the meal I couldn't help asking, for me, are you really not cooperating with the Qin family and the Yin family? It's not because of you. It turned out that the Qin family and the Yin family were superficially beautiful, but in fact they have been attached to the Gu family for the past few years. Without the help of the Gu family, it is indeed difficult for their two companies to survive. I'm relieved to have his words. So you talked a lot about your girlfriend. Is it true? Is that how you want to know? I nodded in a hurry. 12. Gu Yuxing did date several women abroad, but it was just revenge. Those women played with his brothers. He was angry for his brothers before he contacted those women. When they were deeply affectionate, he dumped them. I was a little scared. You have no purpose with me, do you? His eyes were a little scary. After staring at me for a long time, he gritted his teeth and said, tell me, what can I do? Cheating, money, sex, or feelings? All of them. He was so angry that he hit my forehead hard. You still have a tendency to violence. Yes, only for you. After dinner, he bought me a big bag and a small bag and mentioned it downstairs in the dormitory. Yin Mochu didn't know where he came out. I was a little worried and hurriedly took a few steps back. It's not my fault for today's incident. It was Qingmei who deliberately troubled me and bullied me with other classmates. She was over-remembered and apologized to me in public. She deserved it. How dare she bully you? Damn, I'll make her look good later. It seems that Qingmei didn't come to me. It just so happens that Gu Yuxing is also here. Let's make it clear today. Yitong, you can't tell the difference between liking and love. You think you like Gu Yuxing, but in fact the person you love is me. How happy we are to be together for a year. In order to take revenge on me and make me regret it, you deliberately stayed with my brother Gu Yuxing. Well, I promise not to blame you. In the future, we will still be a little couple that everyone envies. Gu Yuxing pulled his face and said, then what am I? Yin Mochu, I advise you to control your mouth and legs in the future, and don't bother my girlfriend again, or I'll be polite to you. How long have you two known each other? It's not like Yitong and I have been together for a long time and have feelings. Gu Yuxing, there are so many excellent people around you, and there is no shortage of Yitong, a woman. But I only have Yitong, and I have agreed with my family that I can marry Yitong after graduation. I suddenly noticed a bandage on his wrist. Later I realized that because of me, he cut his wrist to commit suicide at home, and his family agreed that he was with me. Gu Yuxing's face was black. All right, I'm not allowed to live in the girls' dormitory in the future. There are all kinds of people. Come back to live with me in the future, and we will live together. The people watching around exclaimed. Teen. I was forced to live in Yin Mochu's apartment opposite the school. I just came here in the morning, and I'm not unfamiliar with it. But the thought of living with Gu Yuxing in the future makes me excited and nervous. He staggered his legs on the sofa and hooked his fingers. Come here. I just approached and he held me on his lap. Your feelings for Yin Mochu don't like me at all. You treat me. So to speak, what will happen to you if I break up with you now? Last time I broke up with Yin Mochu I was very uncomfortable, but it was just uncomfortable. Now listening to Gu Yuxing's words I feel that my whole body is not good. My heart hurts and I even feel that living in this world is boring. As Gu Yuxing said, I couldn't tell what I liked earlier, but I just liked Yin Mochu's face. And now I'm curious about a question. But why do you like me? Because I fell in love with you at first sight on the day of my freshman. On the day of admission, he and I went to the newspaper at the same time to report everywhere. At that time, because his father had Xiao San outside, and Xiao San came to make trouble with the child, and his mother wanted to divorce his father. His family is very messy and he is in a bad mood. At that time, I was still a little girl who didn't know the world, and her enthusiastic smile instantly infected him. He has lived in a wealthy family since he was a child, and he knows who will help him in the future. In order to forget me, he studied abroad as an exchange student. He still can't forget me for a year. On the day he first returned to China, he heard that I broke up with Yin Mochu and decided to stay with me. I once fell in love with Yin Mochu at first sight and chased him for a year. I didn't have a chance to be with him until Qingmei left. Now Gu Yuxing fell in love with me at first sight and liked me for so long. I suddenly felt that God was really kind to me. 14. The next day I went to school in Gu Yuxing's car. As soon as I got out of the car, I was watched by people. Everyone pointed at me, and their expressions were very unfriendly. Qingmei's hair was messy. Suddenly he rushed over from the crowd and pointed at me and sneered. Does everyone know what her mother does? Her mother is a full-time junior. She relies on this profession to support Yitong. Otherwise she can't even afford to go to college. Everyone is talking about it. Her mother is actually a full-time junior. It's really a world trend in moral corruption. It's disgusting to think that Xiao San's daughter is in the same school with us. Yitong really followed her mother. Her front foot and Yin Mochu were in pairs, and the back foot was with Gu Yuxing. Her private life was really chaotic. A roommate came over and whispered to me the reason. It turned out that Qingmei was so angry yesterday that he exposed me on the campus post bar. My mother is a full-time junior, and I am the daughter of junior. Gu Yuxing was about to solve it for me, and I shook my head at him. Qingmei, I have recorded what you just said. Now I call the police. If what you said is false, please apologize in front of the teachers and students of the whole school. Call the police. Who is afraid of whom? My mother is indeed a nymphomaniac and a lover, but as a single mother, she has never regretted giving birth to me. She is often a nymphomaniac, but she never interferes in other people's feelings. This time, because my mother worked in a restaurant, she was entangled by a man with a family. The man's wife went to her mother. It happened to be seen by Qingmei's dinner, so she misunderstood her. Later, the man's wife realized that she had wrongly blamed her mother and apologized to her. On Monday morning, Qingmei apologized to me in front of all the teachers and students in the school. I also forgave her generously. After all, I have to forgive others and I already have Gu Yuxing around me. As for Yin Mochu, he doesn't seem to have come out of his heartbreak. He buys me breakfast every day, helps me take a seat and gives me gifts. He did everything I had done to him. Gu Yuxing was very angry and decided to talk to Yin Mochu. Leave your men's affairs to your men to solve by themselves.